All right, so welcome everybody, and welcome to the 2022 judge training for the Bucks-Mont Regional National History Day contest. My name is Karina. For those of you who do not know me, I am the manager of education at the Mercer Museum and Fonthill Castle, as well as the regional coordinator for the Bucks-Mont Regional National History Day contest. I'm joined by two of my colleagues tonight, Christian Murja and Rachel Kara, who will be helping facilitate this training tonight. So you may see some answers from them in the chat. And they are helping us as a team plan the production this year that is National History Day. So before we get started, I would like to familiarize you all with the Zoom platform. You'll notice that all of your microphones have been muted. And I see that some of you have your videos on, which is great. We ask that you do keep yourselves on mute for the program. And if you have any questions throughout, feel free to put them in the chat as we go. Or at the end, I'll leave time for everyone to unmic themselves and ask their questions in person. And there'll be some spots periodically throughout the program to ask questions as well. So tonight we will spend about 60 minutes together, divided into 4 key sections. For the first part of the evenings, we'll go over the mechanics of what makes up the virtual NHD process for 2022. This will answer questions such as what are the categories, what does the virtual contest website look like, what do evaluations look like, and who fills them out. The next part will all be about the different rounds of judging. Thirdly, we will explain what to expect when you join us on Zoom for your individual judging nights. And lastly, we'll spend some time looking at evaluation forms and what makes a good evaluation to give back to students. And I am recording this, as I have said, so if you have any questions while rewatching the recording or watching the recording for the first time, I'm always reachable by email. That'll be in the contact information at the end of the program. If not, you all have the History Day email to reach out as well. I do want to point out, you will notice throughout the program tonight that there'll be images of students and judges meeting in person. This year, everything has been modified to a virtual contest again. So if you joined us last year in 2021, it was our first ever virtual contest. We are repeating that this year as a way for students to submit their projects virtually and for you, our judges, to give feedback virtually as well. So what you're seeing are photos from past contests and not an expectation of what to expect for this year. To start, I do want to thank all of you for volunteering to be a judge. We really could not do this program without you. And we know this year is again different, and we are grateful for your flexibility and dedication to our contest. So whether it's continued support or new support this year, we could not do this without our judges. Thank you. So we will continue on. So this is how this work is passed through the National History Day process. We'll begin with the idea of National History Day, its purpose, and how it develops into a fully fledged student project that needs to be judged by one of you. And then after that, we will review the procedures you will need to judge and view your student projects. So brief history on National History Day. National History Day is a highly regarded academic program for elementary and secondary students. NHD itself began in April 1974 on the campus of Case Western University in Cleveland, Ohio. And the idea was of brainchild of history professor David Van Tassel, who was worried about the decline of humanities in general and history in particular in American schools. And today it's a nationwide contest for students in 6th through 12th grades and is very similar to a science fair format. There are hundreds of students at the regional, state, and national levels of NHD doing historical research and digging into historical events to create their projects. So we are excited to see how excited they are about history. National History Day gets students out of the classroom and into the world as historians. They're doing research, tracking down information about historic people and events. This research leads them to create a thesis and build original conclusions shared through their different projects. Students have the choice to create either a paper, a website, documentary, performance, or exhibit to communicate their historical argument and research. So in all, NHD supports and reinforces critical writing, reading, and research skills for students. The contest progression for NHD in general starts at the school level. Many schools participate in school contests and then promote their students onto the next level, which is regional, which is where we are at. You'll notice that the arrow gets smaller as you go, indicating that fewer students make it through to the next level. So our winners from our contest will move from the regional level to the state level. Both the PA state currently is going to be held in person, and right now the national contest will be held virtually. So if they are looking for judges, I put a plug at the beginning, the national contest is also looking for virtual judges. Though most of the entries you judge at our competition will not move on to the next level, it is our goal to provide all students with a positive and memorable experience that will encourage them to keep learning and reaching higher. And you'll hear me echo that sentiment throughout the night tonight. I've mentioned already the different categories, and you will be assigned to judge for a certain category, and you've already received those. So you already know if you are a paper, website, performance, documentary, or exhibit judge. The paper category is the only individual category, meaning students cannot submit papers as groups. For the other categories, submissions can be submitted in either individuals or in groups of 2 to 5 students. Each category is also divided further into the junior and senior division. Junior division is grades 6 through 8, your general middle school years, and the senior category is, or senior division, is grades 9 through 12, your general high school years. As an example, the documentary category will be divided into junior individuals, junior groups, senior individuals, and senior groups. And students will be judged based in those subcategories. Students all need to design their project in relation to a common theme. The national office selects a theme every year for students at every level of the competition to use to guide their research and historical argument. This year, the theme is Debate and Diplomacy in History, the Successes, Failures, and Consequences. The theme asks students to consider how people have debated and used diplomacy. Some topics might be stories of debate and diplomacy, while others might cover debate with little diplomatic effort or diplomacy without debate. Students must investigate to determine whether or not one or both of these themes is present in their narrative. The annual theme is broad on purpose, and we ask the judges keep an open mind about all the projects that they are reviewing. You might personally like, dislike, be excited about, or be tired of seeing a certain project around a certain topic, but remember to be consistent and fair in judging each project, regardless of personal feelings. The life cycle of a student project is usually between September and June. As I mentioned previously, some schools incorporate NHD into their curriculum, and students will begin talking about their projects with teachers and mentors in early September. And their project could extend all the way till June if they make it to the national contest in June. After choosing their own topic, students do their own historical research, build a thesis, and analyze their sources. The projects are not just book reports. Students analyze the information and come up with their own conclusions and historical arguments. This is all in the process of creating their entry. Then they move on to presenting it at the competition. You're part of that process to give them constructive feedback on their projects. If they're moving on, feedback is helpful for them to tweak their projects and make them better for the next level. And if they don't move on, it's helpful if they continue on the following year and continue learning about research and critical analysis. You've seen the category breakdown a few times so far, and you have already received your category assignments. And certain categories this year have lended themselves naturally to the virtual realm. However, from our preliminary looking at the exhibits this year, exhibits are the hardest ones to translate to a virtual contest. So if you are an exhibit judge and you have been one in the past, we just ask that you kindly bear that in mind when judging some of those performance or some of those projects in that realm. So we will get to the process of actually judging the projects. As I mentioned, all judges work in judging teams of 2 or 3 with 1 judge captain on each team. If you are a judge captain, it will be listed on your judge portal that we will see a little bit later tonight. And your only role in this judging process is to click the submit button at the end that sends the rankings to our team behind the scenes. And a judge team must reach a consensus of the rankings of the projects that they submit to us. So this year, as we've already mentioned, our contest will be held virtually. There will not be one full day of competition where all the students, teachers, and judges gather to view the students' projects. Instead, all of the students have already submitted their projects digitally, and you, our judges, will have access to view and evaluate them through that virtual contest website where you applied to be a judge. We are going to walk through the process together tonight of logging in, viewing the projects, filling out the evaluation form, and submitting the rankings this evening. Before I start, I do want to update everyone again on our status of student interviews. This year, just like last year, based on guidance from the national office, virtual student interviews will not be held at any level of the contest. We know this is a component that many of our judges look forward to, but due to student security and privacy issues, as well as the logistics of managing virtual interviews, it will not be possible this year. Even without this component, I am grateful we can continue as a virtual contest with the help from all of you. So the virtual contest, oops, I skipped ahead too soon. The virtual contest is divided into 2 distinct components for judging: the first round of judging and the second round of judging. By now you have received your judging schedule by category and date. And just as a cheat sheet, I will be sending out a single PDF with all of the dates by tomorrow morning. And the rounds then are based on the number of entries we have received per category. So let's talk a little bit about what each of those roles mean. So round 1, all our round 1 judges, you have been notified. You get to take the first take at student projects. You are going to fill out what looks like a survey or the student evaluation. And all of your projects are currently available to view on your judge portal beginning tonight after this concludes. You will each fill out the forms on your own before you meet with your judge teams on the Zoom date listed here. And then you will be prepared to chat with your judge teams then as well. So on those nights, the goal is that you have 2 hours to talk about the student projects with your fellow team judges and then decide the rankings of all of those. By the end of round 1, in all categories, the person designated as the captain will take the consensus for the first, second, third, and fourth place projects and type those rankings right into the system. Now, it might sound a little strange, but all other projects will need to be ranked 99. All this does is filter those projects to the bottom when we pull the top projects to the second round. After that, your work is done. Remember that students will be able to see all of your evaluation comments that you type in. And we're going to look at what makes a good quality comment and evaluation form in just a moment. So the dates are listed there, and you all have received them via email as well. We will move on to round 2. So round 2 judges, you get to read the students' work fresh. The top entries from round 1 will be sent to a second round to whittle down the entries to the first, second, third, and fourth projects of each category and division. Again, any other project can be designated as 99. Different from round 1, round 2 judges, you will not be filling in any student evaluations. You will only be discussing with your fellow judges and simply ranking based on that. Based on how the Nationals is set up, since round 1 judges have already filled out evaluations, round 2 judges really hone in on the rank of the projects, and you serve as that second set of eyes to confirm the winners that will advance on to the state competition. Prior to your judging nights, you can make your own notes and your own ideas about the merits of each project. Then on the Zoom nights listed here, you will meet with your judge team and deliberate as well. Round 2 judges can only view their projects after round 1 has finished their deliberations. And I will be sending an email to each of the round 2 teams as soon as you can log into your judge portal and see those projects. It will be at 1 p.m. the day after round 1 finishes. And that will all be in that PDF cheat sheet that I will be sending out. So on those judging nights, we've talked a little bit about what it will look like, but you will receive those dates and your judge team will meet in breakout rooms on Zoom to discuss your student projects. You will have about 2 hours to discuss. If you're finished early, that's great, and you are done for the evening. 2 hours was just the buffer of time set aside in order to allow time for longer conversations for groups that need it. We generally average that judges take about 10 minutes to discuss each project and then use the remaining time to rank the student projects. Christian and I will both be on Zoom that night to be able to answer questions and to pop into your individual breakout rooms on Zoom to help with maybe some tricky ranking decisions and just to be there to ask the questions. Round 1 judges on these nights, your evaluation forms should be finished before meeting with your team on Zoom. And then again, once you have your decision made about the top 4 projects, the judge captain will simply input those numbers and click submit. So I'm going to pause right here for anyone who has any questions about the judging nights and what to expect on those, and anyone's free to come off mic for those or type into the chat.
So if we never receive a assignment, we don't know what we're judging.
I will make sure that I reach out to you. And is that who is speaking? Is that sorry, I lost the.
This is Eric and Donna Tobin.
Eric and Donna. All right, Eric and Donna, I will make sure that I follow up with you and confirm that you have it. Thank you. Did anyone else not receive their assignments?
I haven't either.
And who is that, Christine?
Mm-hmm.
Right, I will make sure I resend those. Anybody else? Thank you for letting me know.
Paula and Jack Young.
Hi, Paula and Jack.
Hi. Hi.
Have you have not received yours? Is that
Correct. Nothing.
okay? All right. And I may call some of you tomorrow to confirm email addresses. All right, and I see some people in the chat too. All right, if you are unable to make your judging night, just personally let me know, send me an email at the end of this or during this is fine. And I'll see what I can do to, I will see if we can get you a different night and what works best, but please let me know. And Tom, I will be sending out a cheat sheet with the dates and of the judging nights. So I will be sending that out tomorrow morning, so you'll have those in hand. And Hillary asks, when and where is the state competition? Oh, you're putting me on the spot, Hillary. The state competition is being held in Scranton, Pennsylvania on May, it's the beginning of May. I will confirm that for you. I want to say it's May 7th and 8th in Scranton at the University of Scranton. But I will confirm that for you, Hillary. Constance, you will find out who your judge team is when you log on tonight. So everyone at the end of tonight will be able to log on to their judge portals, and I'll show you where you can see who's on your judge team, and then we can go from there. Sounds good. All right. Any other questions at this moment? Great, we'll move on. I think I answered all the ones in the chat. Excellent, looks like it. Okay. So we're going to move on into the judge portal. and see what it looks like when you log on to your judge portal. So we are going to over here. So this should look familiar to everyone who registered to be a judge. Can everyone see my screen? That looks like that's the Bucks Mont Regional Contest website. Oh, I realized I made everybody go. Everyone can see that? All right. I am going to log on using my username and password, but first, so you will all, this link I will resend to everybody. It's in a variety of places as well, but every night before your judging session, I will make sure you have the link to this website. This is the link that you use to create your judge account, and it's going to be the same one for being the judge as well. So we're going to go here. We're going to log on here. I'm going to type in my username and password. There it goes. So now I have logged on, and when you log on, you will see a screen identical to this one. There's a couple features that I do want to point out. Down below here, we have some judging resources set aside. You may have already poked around at these. The official National History Day website is here, as well as the theme narrative, copies of all the evaluation forms. So those of you in round 2, you might want to take a peek at the evaluation forms and use those to help base your decisions on those rankings that you will decide for those top winners going to the state contest. The contest rulebook is here, as well as abbreviated rules per category. So we have pulled out the rules from the rulebook as they are associated per category, especially with the ones that have some little tweaks for virtual contests. For example, document or exhibits has some tweaks about what is allowed for virtual exhibits or digital exhibits. So those can all be found here as in here. So we can open one up. It just gives a basic breakdown of the highlighted rules for each category. So for the most part, you will head over to the judging tab when you are ready to start judging your projects. And from here, you're going to click Judge Portal. So once in the judge portal, this is where you will see all the judges who are on your team. You'll notice I have 2 judges on my judge team. It's going to tell me my team name, the number of judges, as well as their contact information as they input it into the registration system. Below that, you will see the projects assigned to each judge team. To see each of the projects from here, you will simply click the View and Evaluate button. This is going to open up a new browser tab at the top of the window. And that tab will tell you the project's name, what category it's in, and then depending on the category, it's going to have the project materials. And these will change depending on the type of category. So this one, as a performance, is going to have all the written materials, your annotated bibliography, your process paper, any written word that students were required to submit will be right here. And any extra link to a video will be right here. So if you click a link like this, it's going to open up a video where I have a test file for an orientation. So you can exit out. Once you've watched your video, you can go ahead and click out. Papers and websites and exhibits, you will not have a link to a video. You will only have a PDF to open, but performances and documentaries, you will have the link to open. Great. Websites will have a link to their website, and you'll just click the link right under here. So all project materials will be hyperlinked in blue. Below is the digital evaluation that everyone in round 1 will fill out. The first part is divided into what looks like bubbles, and they are based on the specific rules for the National History Day projects. So you're going to fill in the bubbles at the top section. And then underneath the bubbles, and this one I've already started to fill out as an example for later on in the presentation, will be what is called the rules and compliance section. And this is where you can answer simple yes or no, the project did follow the rule or it did not. If you click no, a box will pop up next to it asking you to explain a little bit further of what you mean by it wasn't there. If you do click no, we ask that all judges on your team also click no. It's pretty obvious and consistent that the process paper is either missing or not, or the annotated bibliography is missing or not. So we would like judges to be consistent. If any one of the judges clicks no for anything under the rules compliance, a brown flag will appear next to that project in the judge portal. And I'll show you that when we go back to that in a moment. Below that is a comment box, and new this year for those of you who participated last year, there is just one comment box for judges to fill in. So this is just strengths and areas for improvement. Any comments you have about the project can go here. You do have a minimum of 500 characters to fill. The box below that is for personal notes. Notice the red highlight. That is for your personal notes as you're going through, as you're evaluating thoughts that you want to bring up to your other judge team members. Students will not see those notes, so please do not put your comments in those notes because students will not see them, and vice versa. Don't mix them up and put your notes in the box that students will see because they will be able to read them at the end. All right, after that, you have two choices. You can save it and it'll tell you it's saved. And then the second option will be save and share. This allows any other of your judge team members to see your evaluation. You do always have to click either save or save and share with team. Otherwise, any of your progress will be lost. I highly recommend you remember to click save. I have had many a draft of a evaluation go away because I forgot to press save. So when we click save and share with team, it's going to tell you, are you ready to share this with your team? As well as the note, you may return to edit your evaluation until the team captain submits the rankings. So because all of this will be done ahead of time by our round one judges, as you're talking with your team on your judging nights, you can come in and edit your evaluation forms, add comments as you talk to them and debate and about the projects. So we're going to click OK. And it's going to tell me that it was made viewable and that you may return at any time. So I'm going to leave this page to go back to our judge portal. And that brown flag that I was mentioning is right here. You'll notice this one has a little view next to it for any other of the judges on the team to look at. So we do ask that each judge form should not be identical. You can see them to see that you are in the same ballpark, but they should be complementary in tone and range, meaning that in your, if I can open this one, in here, one judge should not have all exemplaries and the other judge on the team should not have all novices. They should generally reflect their same range of dots here. So we are going to spend some time. I'm going to exit out of this window. We're going to go back to the one I just had open of what makes a good evaluation form. So we're going to go back to this first one. So you will notice that lots of positive reinforcement is good. So we want to look at this rubric here. So looking at this rubric, you can see that the judge, oops, I've gone to the wrong one. This is the good example. So we'll notice that at the dots reflect each other. And then at the bottom, looking at the comments, we offer lots of ways for growth, lots of positive reinforcement and feedback. I'll make this a little bit bigger for everybody. When offering critique of the project, you should try to give students examples of where you saw they needed improvement. And the comments and rubrics check marks do support each other in this example evaluation. And the comments overall end on a positive note. We always, it's good practice to thank the student for participating in National History Day. They did put a lot of work into these projects. So even if where there is places for improvement, it's always good to acknowledge their hard work throughout the way. So I do want to give an example of one that is a not so great example of a project evaluation form. So you notice in this one, the judge clearly thought that this project was superior and exemplary all the way down the line and deserved all the exemplary check marks. Though it is rare to see a project that should get all top marks, even if that is the case, and it is, you'll notice that the comments at the end here are very basic, and it is not even meeting our minimum requirement of 500 words. We're only at 133 characters. A big note to all of our judges, particularly our new ones, and a good reminder for our returning, is that you never want to put the ranking to the project anywhere on the evaluation forms. Students do get these back, and it's not appropriate to return it with their rankings, even if they do win. Particularly if they are advancing to a round 2 where they might not be the number 1 in round 2. So that comment would be very confusing to them. The second thing is to look at the other comments. Good job, awesome use of classical music, nothing to improve, it was perfect. The comments do not really reflect or offer more feedback to the students' work. It doesn't give them areas where they can improve or even real life examples of where they did well. Comments like these are not constructive and can actually confuse the students in the long run. So before we go back to the PowerPoint, are there any questions about navigating your student portal or comments? And feel free to unmute yourselves and type in the chat. I see some questions in the chat. Often the annotated bib is not done properly per the rules, for example, is that absolutely, yeah. So if the annotated bibliography has some errors in it, go ahead and click no there, but then explain in that tiny box here. Here. I've generally seen them not separate into primary, secondary sources. That's a common error for students. But any more larger errors, you can add to the comment boxes and explain further down below in the comment box as well. And yes, as a reminder, these evaluations are to be completed by round 1 judges before the night of their judging. So most teams have a minimum of a week to work on them to look at your projects, and most or all judge teams have received between 4 and 7 projects. So that is the general range of projects. I believe there's one category that has 8 assigned to it, but it's not till later on. So you have a little more time. I believe that that category is 2 weeks. Does that help answer questions in the chat? Does anyone else have any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Absolutely.
Is there a suggested format for citations and bibliography? And is that described in the judge's instructions? And how rigorous do we judge those formats?
Absolutely, great question. And the contest rulebook is going to have the specifics, but they are allowed to use Chicago and MLA, and essentially they just need to cite it. As far as the strictness to that, we do ask that our judges bear in mind that these are middle and high schoolers. You are not going to get college level cited papers back to you or projects. So unless anything is horribly cited wrong, not cited at all, or miscited completely, A missing comma in a citation is not going to necessarily make or break a project, but completely not citing something absolutely is cause to contact myself, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later on too. But a missing date that you found it or a missing comma is no reason to completely disregard the entire project. Does that help answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Great. Any other questions about the evaluation forms, what round one judges will be doing? Round two, it's a great form to take a look at for your category. They are based on the category itself. So you'll notice that this section is based on that specific category, the performance, the technical, as well as the rules compliance is specific to that specific category. The time will not apply to an exhibit, for example, or a paper, but it does apply to a performance or a documentary.
So I did have a question.
Absolutely.
Jared Hill, and this might be something I have to communicate with you about outside of the confines of this Zoom call, but I've started looking at the exhibits just to see, what we'll be evaluating, and some of the links lead to like error pages, or the images are very unclear and like illegible. So
the links for the actual projects themselves?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, definitely touch base with me afterwards. I did my best to go through every single project this time around to make sure that all the judges were assigned projects that had functional links. If you do come across one that does not have a functional link, this goes for all categories, let me know and I'll see about if there's a new one or if there's a reason that link was broken, and see if I can get you a link that you're actually able to see. The system is very particular, just like you are asked to be very particular about the save and share with team, otherwise it goes away. The same goes for the students when they upload their projects as well. So sometimes little things here and there get missed. But yes,
Right.
Jared, I will touch base and make sure that everything that can work does work.
Perfect. Thank you.
And especially for performances and documentaries, we ask the students to give us a shareable link from a Google Drive, a OneDrive, or a Dropbox. And sometimes those settings aren't always set exactly to let anyone view it. So if you come across that, also let me know, and I'll see about getting you a new link to that project. All right, great questions. I want to go back one moment before we jump back to the PowerPoint to, oopsie, it's telling me, it'll warn you. We'll just save it. So for our judge captains, at the end of the night, you will have one extra job, and that is just to submit the rankings. So all you're going to do is click submit rankings. You will type 1, 2, wait, hang on. Why is it? Oh, because they haven't all been started yet. When you start it, you will see a number next to each one of these boxes. It'll be the project ID number, and the project ID number will be associated with each one of these projects. You put the ranking number next to it, next to that project, and click submit rankings. And then it'll ask you, are you sure? As long as you are, you click OK. Then there's one more button. See, it automatically ranked it as a 1, 2, and 3. The last button is submit to NHD. And all that does, it doesn't send it, it just sends it to me. It sends it to the regional coordinator. It doesn't send it to the national office. It just lets me know that this one is finalized and locked. At that point, no one can edit or change their evaluations. So judges, especially round 1 judges, be sure that you are happy with your evaluation forms at that point, because once it is submitted, it cannot be edited or changed. So once it's will submit, it'll ask it, and this will lock the room. That simply means that no one else can come in it, and that's a holdover from an in-person contest when the room is locked and no one else can come in. So we'll click OK. And then you'll notice that your buttons to view and evaluate have gone away. All right, any other questions before I take us out of this screen and back to the PowerPoint? Excellent. All right, we're going to jump back in. So we've already accessed our student projects on the Judge portal. And then we're going to take just a few more moments to talk about what makes a good evaluation and briefly go through that. So our biggest goal in evaluating these entries is to encourage these students to keep learning and growing. And we do this through the constructive comments and feedback, and by providing them a welcome and positive environment, even if it is virtual, to share their projects. And you, our judges, are the first line of defense for that. And your role as a judge is to examine the student projects and evaluate those projects based on that evaluation form we just saw, as well as making sure they're meeting those specific criteria and connecting to the annual theme. As a judge, you are determining which students will move on to the state competition, and it's you who decides if the students have adequately explained their projects and topics and related them to the annual theme: debate and diplomacy in history, successes, consequences, and failures. This year, not all of you will be filling out evaluation forms, but it is important to remember what the criteria is for each of the student projects and how they are evaluated. So no matter if you are filling out the form or not, we do want to remind all of our judges to be encouraging and positive. We know some of these students have worked really hard under extraordinary circumstances. As I mentioned earlier, some translate really well to the virtual realm, and others, like exhibits, have not done as well translating to the virtual realm. There are some spectacular projects in there, though. So we do ask that you remember that, that these are middle and high school students and not at the college level. So, oops, I skipped ahead too fast. So let's get in. So this is what you are evaluating. So the national office worked with students, teachers, and judges to create the forms that you just saw to better serve the students and their projects. So you will have noticed it was divided into two sections: historical quality and clarity of presentation. The historical quality is by far the most important, and you'll notice it's weighted at 80% of the judging evaluation form. Students are not just memorizing and recounting facts, they should be interpreting and analyzing those facts as well. The project must have a strong thesis statement, and students must have a conclusion based on their research. And they should be reflecting on their topic from a historical perspective, which might include causes and consequences, relationship to a local event or to a larger significance, etc. There should be a balance of primary and secondary sources throughout the project, considering a variety of viewpoints. And we are looking for projects that offer thoughtful analysis with well-rounded conclusions at the end. Students should be stating clearly why their project is significant in history and how it relates to this year's theme, debate and diplomacy in history. Remember, fame does not always mean significance. Just because a person or event is famous does not make it significant. We want judges to be explaining to judges. We want students to be explaining to judges why they think their topic is significant and how their sources help them to prove that statement. Contrary, the clarity of presentation is all about what the project's presentation is, its appearance, grammar and text, and use of equipment. This section is customized to each category, so it represents what judges are looking for when they evaluate the different projects. Some projects might be very well executed, beautiful and elaborate, but if the historical significance or quality is not well represented, you'll want your evaluation to reflect that. Just because it is cute does not mean that it wins. So very quick bullet list of what makes a good comment. So these are for round one judges. These are tips that are helpful for thinking about the project and can also be useful for round 2 judges as well. I do want to bring up these key points. Your comments should be an explanation of the bubbles you filled in above on the rubric. Tell the students why that aspect of their project was fair or exemplary, with specific examples to point to in their project. Even if students don't advance to the next level of competition, if you provide them with examples and actionable steps, for next time, they will grow as young historians and researchers. A helpful tactic can be to ask in your comments, why did the Apollo moon landing add so much debate to the space race? Or how do you think that this one example in your text is an example of diplomacy? Questions help to get the students thinking about their project from different perspectives, or perhaps in a way they haven't before. Remember, each project has redeeming qualities. Try to sandwich constructive criticism between compliments. These students did work hard. So I just real quick, we're not going to read through the whole table, but I do want to point out some things that might be helpful for constructing constructive comments. Some examples you'll see are, instead of saying this project needs a lot of work, you can say instead, you're off to a good start, but consider strengthening your project by doing X, Y, Z. Instead of saying the sound quality of your documentary was terrible, you can say the poor audio quality of your documentary distracted from the overall project. Consider testing your audio on different systems or with different settings ahead of time. This is just to give you an idea on how to word constructive comments so students can learn from them. I'm sure you all have great constructive comment structure as well. So I mentioned a couple times the contest rulebook. The official contest rulebook was updated in 2001, and we are still using that edition. It has not been updated significantly since then. And you have that linked in your judge portal, as we saw earlier tonight. And I do highly recommend new and returning judges review the rulebook. It is helpful, especially when you begin deliberating amongst your judge teams and as you're evaluating each of these student projects. They do need to adhere to the rules as they are printed in the rule book. And sometimes I've seen it come down to a very tiny rule, but the projects are so close in your judging that consulting the rules can sometimes help you determine if the project should be placed above or below a different one. In the deliberation process, you may have questions about infractions and disqualifications. And this table is helpful for deciphering what counts as a minor infraction, a major infraction, or cause for disqualification. Both minor and major infractions should be noted in the comments for your judge evaluation form. And those examples can be they forgot to put the school name, or they exceeded the word count by just 10 words. Or like I said, they missed a comma in their annotation. A major infraction is that their documentary was 2 minutes longer and exceeded it by 2 minutes or so. Those are much more major infractions. And as you'll see, a minor infraction, these are small. This is not going to prevent the project from moving on. It will definitely help in the case of a tie between two entries that you might have in your deliberation process. A major infraction should probably prevent the project from moving on. However, in some instances, they can't. Please bring them to my attention on the night of Zoom judging, and we can talk about if you really do think that project should advance, even with that major infraction. It has happened. It can be a discussion. Disqualification. There are 3 reasons for disqualification. And that is reusing an entry from a previous year, plagiarism, and tampering with another entry. This year, I don't think we have to worry about tampering with another entry, but we do have to worry about the other 2. And by worry, I mean just be aware of. So if you do see someone that is under those disqualifications, plagiarism, reusing an entry, or tampering with another student, please alert me right away via email or at the email there below that goes to me. And we will take it from there to talk to the student's teacher and go from there and review the project itself. So at the end of our training tonight, we're just about wrapping up. I do want to quickly debunk a few National History Day myths that have become common. And these relate to some specific categories. For exhibit and website judges, remember that timelines are not a necessity and they are not required. Even though they are helpful tools, student projects don't need them to move on. Performance judges should also remember that songs are not required. They certainly add to a project, but projects without songs can be just as good, if not better, than performances with songs. In documentaries, student-conducted interviews or oral history interviews are not required either. They can be included, but having an actual interview by a student is not a must. If an oral history is included, the interview must have been conducted by that student. For all judges, remember that glitz doesn't win. If a project is beautiful and catches your eye, that is great, but we want to make sure that the historical research, relation to the theme, and clarity of the project are also there. Lastly, there's no winning formula for any student project. They come in all shapes, sizes, so keep an open mind and consider each project with a fresh eye. So that was a lot of information. I will pause here. Are there any questions? Feel free to type in the chat or come off of mute, and I'll be happy to clear anything up. I answered everything. Okay, well, if there are no questions, that is great. I just want to let you know that the recording for this training will be available to you tomorrow. It will be sent via email. And if you have any specific questions in the meantime, please reach out to me. I can be emailed at historyday@mercermuseum.org. And my phone number is below too. My direct extension is 125. So thank you so much for everyone coming to the webinar tonight. We truly could not do this without you, and I will see all of you on your Zoom judging nights in the next couple weeks.